My name is Dr. David Walker, and my conversation today is the champion in me, overcoming obstacles so graduation is attainable and not an afterthought. All right, I want to start off by asking you this question. Have you ever had to overcome a giant obstacle or challenge? If you've ever had to overcome a giant obstacle or challenge, I want you to write in the chat, that's me. Or put, yes, I've had to overcome obstacles in my life. Come on, write it in the chat. I've had to overcome obstacles. Yes, you are talking to me. I've experienced obstacles. I've experienced challenges. And I'm sure somebody might say, I'm going through some right now. So we've all experienced obstacles and we all experience challenges. Now, sometimes an obstacle can look just like this. Here you are, and of course, you're the smaller person in the picture, and the thing that you're facing is a giant-sized obstacle. And when you look at it, it seems insurmountable. It seems like something that you can't overcome, something that you cannot defeat. As a matter of fact, when I put this picture together, I looked at some of the people in the background and I noticed that they were laughing. And sometimes the obstacles in your life, sometimes they laugh back at you, laughing at you, trying to make you to believe that there's no way you can overcome the giant obstacles in your life. You know, when I see this picture, it reminds me of a story that I heard growing up in church, a story from the Bible. And it's a very familiar story about David and Goliath. If you've ever heard of that story, I want you to write in the chat, yes, I heard it. I heard the story of David and Goliath. And I'm sure that some of you may have heard it because you went to church. And if you went to church, you heard the story in that religious context. And then some people may have heard the story of David and Goliath in a sports context. You know, when an giant undefeated team is about to face an undersized underdog opponent. And when the giant looks at the undersized opponent, they say, there's no way I'm going to lose to you today because I'm too big and I'm too strong. And then when you're the undersized opponent, you look up at this giant and you wonder, how can I win? So that story of David and Goliath is just one to teach us that we can overcome obstacles with great determination, with great fortitude, with great tenacity. So I'm here today to tell you, no matter what obstacle you are experiencing today, you can overcome it. Now, some of us, when we think about obstacles and overcoming obstacles, we may think about where we come from. We may think about our background and how we got started. And when we look at where you come from, or when you look at where you come from, you may be saying, yeah, I'm facing obstacles right here where I live. And I know what you're talking about because I'm somebody who, when I grew up, I faced obstacles in my past too. You see, I grew up in this community called Bedford-Stuyvesant in Brooklyn, New York. Now, somebody might say, well, Bedford-Stuyvesant, what is that? Well, I guess you could say Bedford-Stuyvesant would be like a Compton in California, if you've heard of that, or Detroit in Michigan, or the urban streets of Chicago. Or maybe some of you know about a community because it may be something like this in your surrounding areas of Savannah, where you may know that there's a community that may not be the best start in life, but that's where you live and that's where you grew up. And that's exactly where I grew up. And there's a picture right there. I grew up in a community that there was not a whole lot of inspiration or aspiration. As a matter of fact, I remember when I was a little boy, I remember standing on the corner and I could look over here in one corner and I could see drug deals and gang violence over here on this corner. And then as I look over here, I could see abandoned buildings and empty lots. So for me, the community that I grew up in, there was not a whole lot of inspiration or aspiration, but it's what I saw. But, I had a dream. And the dream I had was I knew that there was better in life. I knew that there was more to life than what I was seeing. And I dreamed of being something special in life. I had one dream. I wanted to be a professional baseball player. You see, I love the game of baseball. And because of the dream of playing professional baseball, I thought one day, coming from New York, I could play for the New York Mets or the New York Yankees. And so I remember holding on to this dream. And I said, when I become a professional baseball player, I'm going to make it out of my community and I'm going to be able to provide for my family. Fortunately, I got a scholarship and I went to college. Now, while I was in college, each and every year I got better. I improved in my talents. And one day, finally, I got noticed by a professional baseball team. And it was the Los Angeles Dodgers. I got a letter from the Los Angeles Dodgers inviting me to come and try out for their team. And I knew that this was my opportunity, a chance to get in front of the Los Angeles Dodgers and to show them what I could do. My dream was about to come true. Or at least I knew that I was going to have a chance to allow somebody to see me, that I could be that professional baseball player. So if I could fast forward to my final year of college, we were just a few days away from the final few games of the year. And also I was just maybe about 2 or 3 weeks away from that tryout. And as you can see, there's the letter right there that I got from the Dodgers. And I remember being in one of my final games as a college athlete. I remember being on second base. See, I got a base hit and I got on first base and I stole second. And I remember being on second. And remember, I'm just a few days away from trying out for the Dodgers. So for me, everything was happy. Everything was exciting. Even while I was standing on base, I was smiling and thinking, the Dodgers, I'm going to have my opportunity. So I remember a teammate of mine got a base hit to the outfield. And I remember running and coming around third. And I'm trying to come home. And I'm trying to score a run for my team. And I'm running as hard as I can. And there's a play at the plate. The ball is coming in and I'm trying to score, but the catcher is blocking the plate. And as I slid into home plate, I had a collision with the catcher. And after that collision, all of a sudden, the only noise you could hear, there was a hush that came over the crowd. The only noise you could hear was my screams as I laid there on the ground. I remember rolling in the dirt because I was going through excruciating pain from that collision. I remember my coach came running out of the dugout to come see about me. I remember the athletic trainer, he came to give me aid. Some of my teammates were standing over top of me. I could see them. A couple of them had their hands over their mouth. And a few had their head in their hand, and they were looking at me. I remember at that moment, I got a chance to look down at my leg. I remember what I saw. And what I saw, I knew that I wasn't going to make that tryout. I knew that my baseball career was over. I knew that my dreams to be a professional baseball player had ended with that collision at home plate. But I remember realizing that what I was experiencing is what you call a defining moment. A defining moment that someone said, I believe it was Kevin Costner in a movie called Tin Cup. He said, when a defining moment comes, either you define the moment or the moment defines you. And as I was laying on the ground, I remember I remember grabbing the dirt to get dirt in my hand to help support me with the pain. I remember saying to myself that I'm not going to let this moment define me. I'm not going to let this obstacle keep me from going and being something or doing something in my life. I knew I wasn't going to make it to the Dodger tryout, but I said, I'm going to define that moment. And let me tell you what I did. Right then and right there, while I was laying on the ground, I remember saying, because remember, I was in the final days of my college career, the final days of my athletic career. I remember saying, I'm going to come back to school and finish my education. And that's exactly what I did. I rehabbed my leg. I came back to school. I went on and earned my bachelor's degree. I then went on and became an educator and a teacher, similar to Miss Purnell and Miss Taylor. I went on, and not only was I a teacher, but then I became an administrator and a principal. I went back to school and I earned my master's degree. But then I didn't stop there, because I understood that now that I've educated my mind, there's more. And I went back to school again. And finally, I earned the highest level of education, and that was a doctorate degree. But here's what I learned from my experience of overcoming. You see, I thought that I was going to get out of where I lived and become successful through my athletic ability. But after I broke my leg, I realized that it was my education that was going to get me out of the community that I grew up in. It was my education that was going to change my life. It was my education that was going to make a way, because I knew that once I educated my mind, then the world belonged to me. I had the ability to accomplish every goal and every task. Why? Because I educated my mind. So I overcame that particular obstacle, and I made something of myself. And sometimes you're going to experience, as we started, you've already raised your hand and said, yes, I am experiencing obstacles. And sometimes the question is asked, how do you overcome obstacles and challenges and win? Let me go back to that David and Goliath and that giant story. Remember, it's a story that teaches us how to overcome. It teaches us how to win. It teaches us how to face all challenges and obstacles and be a winner at the end. So here's what I want to suggest to you. Here's the first thing that I want to give you. If you're going to be an overcomer, if you're going to be a winner, here's the first message that I want to give to you. Number one, you have to be fearless. Listen to that quote that Kobe Bryant gives down at the bottom. He said, the moment you give up is the moment you let someone else win. Let me say it again. The very moment that you give up, the very moment that you don't continue is the moment that you let someone else win. You have to be fearless. Somebody may say, well, Dr. Walker, tell me about being fearless. Fearless means that what you have to understand is that in life, you're always going to face fear. That's right. It doesn't matter whether you're taking an exam. It doesn't matter whether you're about to graduate, go to the next grade, or graduate from high school to go on to college. It doesn't matter. You're going to always face fear in your life. Fear and success goes hand in hand. You cannot have success and not have fear to go along with it. But the challenge that you must face, or what you must understand, is that you have to push past your fear, although it's there. You have to push past it, and you have to say, I'm going to win, although I may be afraid. Although I may have fear, I'm not going to let any fear keep me from being successful or doing what it is that I'm supposed to do. Let me tell you a story. I'm sure many of you have heard of the great movie star Will Smith, right? Will Smith. We know Will Smith. And here's what I want you to do. I'm a Will Smith fan. If you like Will Smith, I want you to write 2 or 3 Will Smith movies in the chat. My favorite is Bad Boys and Men in Black and The Gemini Man. I want you to write 2 or 3 of your favorite Will Smith movies in the chat. Whichever movies you like, I want you to write in the chat. And I want to tell you this story about Will Smith. Will Smith, for his 50th birthday, he said, I want to skydive. I want to jump out of a plane. And when he was in the plane and they opened up the door, Will was experiencing his greatest fear. That's right. At that moment, he was experiencing his greatest fear. Can you imagine being in the plane and they open up the door and somebody tells you to jump? No! But Will was committed that even though fear came, he said, I came up into this plane and I'm going to jump and I'm going to jump. So at that moment, Will jumps out of the airplane. And here's a picture of Will. Will said, while he was falling down, he felt the greatest that he'd ever felt in his life. He felt exhilaration. He felt joy. He felt excitement. And when he got down to the bottom and when he landed and he got on his feet, he said what he realized was that beyond your maximum fear are the greatest things in life. Let me say that again. Beyond your maximum fear are the greatest things in life. Fear comes to keep you from succeeding. Fear comes to keep you from winning. Fear comes to keep you from being successful. Fear comes to keep you from graduating and moving on and moving to the next step. But you have to be fearless. If you can be fearless, you will be a winner. If you can be fearless, you will be a champion. But you got to push past your fear. So that's the first thing that I want you to understand is that if you're going to be a champion, you have to be fearless. Here's the second thing that I want you to know. If you're going to be a champion, you have to be a leader. You got to be a leader. You've got to be a person that's willing to be up in front. If you want to be a winner, you have to lead. And sometimes it's not just leading you, and I'm gonna hit a couple things, but you have to be a leader. Now, somebody may be asking, well, Dr. Walker, what is it that I can lead? Well, here's three things that I want to give you. Here are 3 things you can lead. Number 1, lead yourself. Lead yourself. Now, listen to this. If you fail to lead yourself, yourself will lead you. Let me say that again. If you fail to lead yourself, yourself will lead you. Well, what do you mean by that, Dr. Walker? What I mean is that you have to take control over you. Have you ever found yourself being in some place that you weren't supposed to be? You didn't really want to be there, but you found yourself there, or you found yourself maybe with other people. Why? Because you allow yourself and the things that you may be drawn to bring you and to take you where you knew before you got there you shouldn't have been there, or it was a place that wasn't good for you. You got to learn how to lead you, because if you lead you, then yourself will not lead you. I hope you got that. Here's another thing that I want you to lead. You can lead others. Sometimes when you are a leader, your responsibility is to lead other people. Sometimes you got to lead other people in the right direction. Sometimes you got to lead other people to do the right thing. Sometimes you have to lead other people to say the right thing. And finally, sometimes you have to lead other people to have the right thing. When you're a leader, you got to take your place. You got to take your position. You can't wait for somebody to tell you, go ahead and get into the front of the line. Go ahead and lead. No, when you are a leader, you got to know it's my job and my responsibility, even as a young person. No, you don't have to be an adult to lead. You can lead right where you are. You can be in middle school and be a leader. You can be in high school and be a leader. You got to take charge, because there are people who are looking for you to lead. Here's the last thing that you can lead. Well, you can lead your environment. Somebody said, well, Dr. Walker, how do I lead my environment? You lead your environment by making changes to the things around you, the places around you, the community around you. Your community is waiting for change, and you're the one that's been assigned to do it. You're the one that had the ability to speak to certain issues in the community. And again, you don't have to be above 18 and adult. You can lead now, because where you are, that environment needs someone that's going to speak to and say, I think that I can make things better right here where I live. Because once you do that, then you make your environment better. You make your life better. So you're a leader. That's the second thing. Be a leader. Here's the next thing I want to give to you. Is be great at communication. Be great at communication. Somebody said, well, Dr. Walker, why do I need to communicate well? Listen to this. The most important thing that you must remember is that your voice matters. And your message matters. You have a voice, you have a message, and it matters. And people need to hear your voice. Why? Because the only way for you to get what you need out of life is you have to speak up. You have to raise your voice. You have to stand strong, and you have to tell the world exactly what it is that you want to do and what you want to become. You have to lift your voice. You have to communicate and let the world know that you are somebody, that you will be somebody, that you are a champion, that you are a winner. You're not less than, you're greater than, but you are a winner, and you have to lift your voice and let it be known. I want to tell you a story. Sometimes in life, not only are we to lift our voice, but sometimes in life, unfortunately, some people lose their voice. I want to tell you a story about someone that you may know. If you know this lady, and there's her name right there, Maya Angelou. Of course, Maya Angelou is a well-known writer. She is the author of I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. She is a poet. And in that picture, she's standing at the Capitol at the inauguration of President Bill Clinton, reciting a poem. And she's world renowned for her poetry. But I want to tell you a story about Maya. Before she was the voice of American literature, Maya's voice was suddenly silent at a young age. And her voice was silent for more than 5 years. Unfortunately and sadly, at the age of 8, Maya was sexually assaulted. She was sexually assaulted by a family friend. After what happened, Maya identified the person who assaulted her. The man was arrested. He had a brief trial, but he was only put in prison for 1 day. And after that 1 day, he was released. But shortly after, the authorities found this man dead. It was believed that Maya's 3 uncles took care of what they felt they had to do. Now, Maya hearing that the man was dead, Maya thought that it was her voice that killed him. She said, I thought my voice had killed him, so I stopped speaking. And for the next 5 years, Maya, as a little girl from the age of 8 to the age of 13, she never spoke a word. During these years of silence, Maya developed a strong memory for poems. And she also watched as the other children in her church sang songs and they recited poems. And as she was watching this, she said, I would sit in the children's pew and think, if only I could speak. And at the age of 13, thanks to poetry, she did. And as we know, Maya was released from her prison of speechlessness to find her voice. And she became world-renowned as one of the greatest poets of our time. Maya found her voice. And even though her experience was an experience that we wish no person would ever experience, but what did she do? She overcame the challenge that she had experienced, and she lifted up her voice and she became a champion, because although her experience was hurtful and harmful, Maya said, I can't allow it not to let me win. I must win. So you have to lift your voice. You have to be a great communicator, because somebody is waiting to hear your voice. They're waiting to hear your message, because the only person who can tell your message is you. Let me give you the next point, and I think this is the final point, is that you have to be a person of character. You have to be a person of character. Listen to what Booker T. Washington said. He said, character, not circumstances, makes the man or makes the woman or makes the young man or makes the young girl or young woman. It's your character. What is character, Dr. Walker? Character says, I'm going to do the right thing because it is the right thing. Character says, I know what's right and I'm going to do right. Character says, no, I'm not going to do that because that's not the right thing to do. Character says, if I say I'm going to do something, I keep my word. Character says that people can depend on me. Character says that I'm honest and I won't cheat you and I won't do you wrong and I won't mistreat you. Why? Because I'm a person of character. And sometimes character even goes deeper than just being a person of your word. Sometimes character goes to the point of actually having a determination to be successful. I want to show you the picture of a man here. And if you know who this is, I want you to write his name in the chat. I just want to see how well our students can see a picture and know who this person is. This is a man in history. I don't want none of the adults to write it. Christina Jackson says she knows who it is. Who else? Who else knows who it is? Olivia Allen, yes, she says, I know who it is. Who else?
Madison.
Tim Daniels. Listen, look at this bright class. Yes. Everybody gets an A. Listen, I started to give away a prize, but I said, no, these children are too smart. I said, I'm going to lose. I'm going to have to buy everybody a car. Listen, yes, this is Nelson Mandela. And why is Nelson Mandela a man of character? Because Nelson was the strength and resilience of a person who faced an adversarial situation. You may know that Nelson Mandela was put in prison for 27 years. Why? Because he stood up against apartheid in South Africa. That's where the minority white were in leadership and they oppressed the majority blacks in South Africa. And because Nelson Mandela believed that apartheid was wrong and stood up for equal rights and stood up for justice, they put him in prison and he stayed there for 27 years. And through all of that, Nelson never allowed himself to not one day be a man without character. And through his character traits, what did he show? He showed courage. He showed loyalty. Yes, there was a time he had to forgive the people who afflicted this prison sentence on him. And yet he had to build up tolerance, because after he got out of prison, after 27 years, he had to deal with the same people who put him in prison. What a heavy load to have to carry. But Nelson Mandela continued to show that he was a person of character. And if you want to achieve success in life, if you want to be the best that you you have to be a person of character. Let me start to bring this conversation to a close. Now, I came today to talk a little bit about you graduating and how we want to make sure that graduation is attainable for you. Now, yes, you want to graduate, you got to do your work. You got to pass your classes. You got to get the right grades. But I want you to understand that because you are a champion, that there are other elements that you need to understand in order for you to get to the levels that you want to get to. And of course, some of them we talked about. So here, I want to go over them. Number one, I need you to face your fears. What are you afraid of? I know that test is hard. I know that those exams are challenging. I know that you have to pass a particular course that's not the subject that you like or that you're familiar with. But you have to understand that if you can face what you are afraid of and you can push past it, you will find a way to succeed. You will find. Now, yeah, you may have to get help. You may have to get resources. You may have to connect with Miss Purnell and Miss Taylor and others who are at your school to get you the help you need. But see, when you are afraid, you don't show up. When you're afraid, you say, I'm not coming back to that school. When you're afraid, you say, I'm not going back to that class. If you could face what you are afraid of and say, although I may be afraid, I might have a fear, I'm going into that class anyway. I'm going to study for this exam anyway. I'm going to put in the time to make sure that I achieve my goals because I believe that my destiny is here in my power to be able to accomplish things. Here's another thing I want you to know. Use your imagination to visualize your success. What do I mean by that? I mean that you can become whatever it is that you can visualize. If you can imagine it, it can happen. You know, one of the things that I am just so happy about, especially for the young ladies, seeing a woman, a black woman especially, standing in the role of vice president of the United States. See, the only way that you can become a vice president is that you had to see it for yourself. The only way you can become a CEO of a company as an African American, whether you're male or female, is that you need to see it for yourself. The only way that you can be a president of the United States, you had to see a black man by the name of Barack Obama stand there and he said that if I can do it, you can do it too. But you have to imagine and visualize yourself being in a place and being in a position, because the only way something can happen is that you have to see it in your mind first. If you see it in your mind, then you can become it, because there's nothing that will happen in our everyday living in life until it first manifests itself within the visual imagination that we have. So I need for you to imagine and visualize your success and see yourself as a champion. See yourself as a winner. See yourself defeating giants, and you can. Here's the next thing I want you to do. Write down your dreams and goals. There's nothing that's going to happen in your life unless you write it down. I want you to go home, or if you're home now or wherever you are, begin to write your goals down. Begin to write your dreams down. Put them in the whatever notebook you use or journal. Put them on a poster board. Put them on your wall. Whatever you have, write every single dream and every single goal you have. Put it somewhere so every day you can see it. And when you see it, you're going to say, that's me. That's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to become. Why? Because I've written down my dreams and my goals. Here's another thing. Have total confidence in yourself. The only person that can keep you from being the champion you are is you. The reason why David beat Goliath is because he believed in himself. He had confidence that although he was facing this giant obstacle, he could win. I believe in me, and I want you to believe in you. Believe that you can. Believe that there's nothing beyond your ability. Believe that you have the capability and the capacity to do whatever you envision yourself becoming. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to read more books. You're never going to be the intelligent person that you are unless you read more books. Now, sometimes somebody offers you books that you don't like. Well, don't fret over it. Read the books that you do like. Because as long as you're reading, you're expanding your mind, you're expanding your thoughts and your education. See how other people write. See how other people talk. Patting yourself after excellence. But you have to read. Read more about Black history. Read more about great Black, success. That's the only way. And don't just do it. I don't know whether, I know we got a couple of males, but don't just read about athletes. Read about, or rappers or anything like that. Read about entrepreneurs. Read about tech people. Read about a guy like a David Stewart. David Stewart is an African-American man, the number 3 or number 2 African-American in terms of wealth in America, valued at $3 billion. He owns worldwide technology. How does an African-American become worth $3 billion in a tech company? When they told him that Black people don't belong in technology, and he said, yes, they do. And I'm going to show you, because he was determined. That was his field of expertise and his field that he wanted to go in. And today, David L. Stewart is valued at $3 billion. Why? Because he read more books. Here's another thing, and I'm getting ready to close. I want you to celebrate every success. You know, when I was coming through school, and I have a lot of school under my belt, if I got an A in class, I would immediately go and celebrate. I mean, I literally throw myself a party. You know, I got the music, celebrate good times. I just celebrate it. If I passed the class, I would celebrate it. When I graduated and I got a degree, I would celebrate. And the reason why I would celebrate, I didn't wait until I achieved the highest, like the graduation, because remember I said if I passed the class, I celebrated. If I, moved on to the next grade or whatever, I celebrated. Here's why I want you to celebrate. Because whatever you celebrate, you are likely to repeat. Let me say that again. Whatever you celebrate, you are likely to repeat. Why? Because when you celebrate something, you get a joy, you get excitement. You like how it feels. You like how it feels because of why you're celebrating. You're celebrating because you got the A. It feels good. I'm going to celebrate. And because I like that feeling, I want to do it again. So I want to go after that A again. I want to pass that class again. I want to not only go from middle school to high school, but I want to go from high school to college. And then I want to earn a college degree. I'm not going to stop there because I like how it feels when I achieve great goals and I celebrate. I'm going to go get a master's degree, and prayerfully, you'll go all the way up to earn a doctorate degree. But I want to say something else as I close. I realize that education in terms of books and school, it may not always be for everyone. But here's what I want you to say. But you still have to find a way to educate yourself in whatever it is that you feel that you are best at. So don't underestimate the fact that your job is to educate your mind and to grow your mind and expand your mind. You are a champion. You are a winner. And because you are a champion, some will try to convince you that success is not for you, but you are a champion, you are a winner. And I just want to say that you can win no matter what you put your mind to. You are a winner and you are a champion. And I want to thank you for having me today.